today's episode. If this is your first time here, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Um, and let's just go into what we have to do for today. Once again, my name is Dara Oladapo. So last week we deployed an app to Azure from Visual Studio. It was a simple.NET core application, and this was the content of what we deployed. Basically, it has a home page, it has a privacy policy page, and all of that. And this was everything about it. The only thing I did was change this and the content that was here. So today we'll be talking on actually taking this application and using what we call deployment slots. So for just a little while, let me explain how deployment slots work. What happened is you have an environment that is your pre-production environment, and you have the production environment in the same app service in this case. So let me show you what that looks like in Azure. So I have an app service here. It is an app service plan that is hosted on Linux. If I go into my app service, I will go over to deployment slots area. So what this enables me to do is to have the same application hosting different versions of itself. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add, let's say for example, a staging slot. And this is how it will work. So I can actually decide to clone settings if I have some settings I want to clone from a separate environment. So I'll go ahead and add that deployment slot. So this is the production slot, all ready to go. The deployment slot is still waiting. Let me actually duplicate this tab and append staging to this. That will be the URL of our staging slot. It's currently not available now because it's still in production process. So it's available now. So what I can go ahead and do is actually let me change that spelling. Staging. So it will load up the staging slot for me. So it will just take a few moments to start up. So the way it works is I have environment A and environment B. Environment B is my production environment. Environment A is my staging environment. What happens when I do that deployment slot swapping is that it takes environment A to the position of B, and environment B becomes the position of A. So it goes ahead in that cycle as I continue to do the swapping. And the other thing I could do is to actually have traffic being routed to each of them, so I could use it sort of like a traffic manager. So my users will feel like they are having different versions of the same application. So what Azure does is it puts a load balancer in front of it, and then it works out that way. I will not use any traffic setting here, so I'll just cancel that and save this. All right, so let me go back into Visual Studio. So this was the place to stop last week in deploying the application. So what I'll go ahead and do now is to actually add a setting to deploy to the staging slot. So currently this is what we have. We have the staging environment with nothing inside. So this is the boilerplate page that Azure gives us when we create a new app service. And then we have the production environment. If I actually go ahead and swap this, even if I do a deployment, let me go ahead and swap the source, which is my staging environment, this one over here. I'll swap it with the production environment, and I could have a preview of what I'm swapping if there are any settings that exist that will be swapped. Alright, so what I'll go ahead and do is swap. So that takes a couple of seconds. So just wait for that to complete. While this actually happens, let me go into Visual Studio and add the setting to push the staging application, the application to staging. So what I'll do, I currently have the web deploy profile for the production application right here. So what I'll do is I'll click on New over here inside Visual Studio. I'll click on New, and then I'll select all the stuff. It's hosted on Linux from the last episode. And then what I'll do is expand this application over here. I'll expand this application and then go into deployment slots, expand it, and then it will load up the deployment slots I have for me. So all I need to do is just click on it and finish. So it will download the published profile from Azure for me and get it in my app ready to deploy. But right now I wouldn't publish it. So what I'll do is I'll go back into Azure. Okay, the swapping is complete, as you see over here. So if I go ahead now and refresh my staging environment, you see what was in production is now in staging. Check the URL out here, staging environment. And then what was in production, let me refresh. What was in staging is now what is in production, and that is the simple way it works. So what I'll go ahead and do is actually swap this for now, swap it back, because what I want to deploy is a very simple change. So I'll swap that, and I'll go back into Visual Studio and actually just change what is in my view here. So I'll say this is model Saturday. Let me remove Saturday, because of course I'm not streaming this on a Saturday. Because of what happened on the stream. So this is model from staging slots. Okay, let me just say deployment slots. So I'll run this to be sure it's fine. Of course, I know it's fine, but I just want to run it to be sure. That'll take a couple of moments, but I'll just check on the swap now. It's still ongoing. Okay, Visual Studio has launched the application. Because I moved machines, it will ask me to enable some SSL self-signed certificate. I'll just go ahead and do that when it pops up. So it's still ongoing also. Right, so this is the application. You can see from deployment slots. So what I'll do, so the swap should have been done also. Oh, swap is still in progress. That's a little bit strange. I never thought it would take that long, but we'll just wait for that. Okay, so what I'll actually do, I just want to wait for this to complete before I publish that application to the staging environment. Okay, I think the swap is completed. Okay, swap is completed, and then I'm ready to go. So I'll go back into Visual Studio. I'll stop this debug process. And then what happens is I will go here and select the web deploy profile I want to use. So currently now it's on the staging profile. It's on the staging profile. So I could select any environment I want to use, but I'll select the staging profile now, and all I need to do is click on publish. So in a scenario where you want to ensure a version of the application is actually good first before you deploy to production, and you want to use the same setting, the same set of data and all sorts, you can do that with deployment slots or maybe an app service entirely. But if you like to use it with a single environment, this comes in place. For example, if you want to use the same settings, the same variables and sorts, this comes in handy for that scenario. So it's done deploying. It's here. It's done deploying. So we started the app. It will launch my browser now. So let me close this up. So this is where it will deploy it to. I'm just waiting for it to launch itself, but I can actually refresh this page. So you can see our content up in here. You can see our content up in here. The content we just pulled from Visual Studio right here. So I'll close this up, and if I refresh production, we'll see that there is the content, just the content from last week is still there, and we have the updated content. So users can go ahead and actually interact with this content on and off. And then when you're comfortable enough to say this app should go into production, all you need to come do is come into Azure and do a swap. So it's validating all the settings, and then I click on swap. So that takes the time it takes, of course. So essentially what it does, it copies the content of folders back and forth using a temp environment and all sorts. But I don't actually have to worry about that myself. Azure takes care of it for me. So all we have to do now is just wait. We are waiting for it to happen. Still waiting for it. And the sweet thing is, you can also, while this happens, you can come in and you can go into the app service itself and stop a specific slot. So you could do that if you want to. So maybe in the next episode we'll talk about custom domain, SSL, scaling up and scaling down, and all sorts. There's a lot of things you can actually do with app service. There's actually a lot. It makes life easy. Okay, swap is done successfully. So if I go to my staging, this is what I'll see. If I refresh, look over here, and if I go to production, my content changes. As simple as that. And so that is how deployment slots work in Microsoft Azure. I hope you've been able to learn something with that. And I will definitely see you in the next episode of Smooth Saturday, which is Saturday, of course. Now I've gotten the hang of it and it will not fail. So, bye.